The 3700 City Class 440 is one of many famous steam locomotives from the Great Western Railway, largely thanks to a speed record allegedly set by a now preserved member of the class. They've been available as an add-on for Train Simulator for many years, but there is now a new version from Caledonia Works, and that's the add-on on which this video is focused. In the time since the 21st of October 2025, when I got this add-on, I've had two particular members of the class making occasional cameo appearances, but now I think that the cities deserve a dedicated video of their own. The origins of the City class can be traced back to September 1902, when locomotive number 3405 Mauritius, from the GWR's Atbara class, was rebuilt with a tapered boiler, having previously used a parallel one. The new boiler was a prototype for what would later become the Swindon Standard No. 4, which was used on the rest of the City class. In 1903, 10 locomotives were built new as the City class, followed by 9 more Atbaras rebuilt as cities in 1907 and 1908. The new build locomotives were named after cities on the Great Western Railway network, while the Atbara rebuilds retained their original names. Two of those rebuilds that stick out to me are 3704 Lyttelton and 3706 Melbourne, as the former is named after a port town in the South Island of New Zealand, while the latter is named after a city in Australia, to which I paid a visit in 2013 and again in 2024. The City class was originally numbered in the 3400 range, but renumbered to the 3700 through 3719 range in 1912. Personally, I prefer these engines in their post-1912 conditions. These engines were designed for express passenger trains, and proved successful in that role, but as time went on, they were displaced by newer and bigger locomotives, such as the Castle Class 460 of 1923. Withdrawals of the City class began in 1927, with number 3718, City of Winchester, being the first one to go. The last withdrawal took place in 1931, with only one member of the class surviving into preservation. 3717, City of Truro, is famous for allegedly reaching 102.3 miles per hour in 1904, when he was descending Wellington Bank in Somerset with a London-bound Ocean Mails train. However, the first locomotive to officially reach the ton was not City of Truro, but rather LNER A3 Pacific No. 4472 Flying Scotsman, who managed it in 1934. Ironically, City of Truro was not preserved by the GWR, but rather the LNER at their museum in York, which was a predecessor to what we know today as the National Railway Museum. In 1958, the old 440 paid a special visit to the Isle of Sodor, where he met a pannier tank and caused a certain Blue Pacific to get mighty jealous. These days, he's on static display at the Steam Museum in Swindon. As an aside, I wanted to go there on the 16th of April, but ended up staying at the Didcot Railway Centre for so long that we ran out of time to visit Swindon as well. Caledonia Works released their GWR City class add-on in May 2025, and it's available to buy from their website for £20, or around $46.36 NZD at full price. 20 quid is pretty much the standard price for CW add-ons these days. As alluded to earlier, when I mentioned the 21st of October, I did not pay for my copy of the City class, as this was one of the add-ons kindly gifted to me by Kris Wilson himself. Indeed, that's why I've labelled this video as a showcase as opposed to a normal review. Another thing to which I alluded in the intro is the fact that this was not the first time the GWR City class was modelled for Train Simulator, as Just Trains released a version of their own in 2013. However, that pack does not include all 20 members of the class, whereas the CW pack does. Unfortunately, I can't do a side-by-side comparison between the JT and CW cities, because I haven't got the former. As for what you get with the CW City, we'll start off with the liveries, as I always do. The selection comprises all of the liveries that the engines wore throughout their working lives, along with 2 fictional liveries in the form of Railway Operating Division khaki and British Railways lined black. As for the authentic liveries, they are as follows. Great Western Railway green with Indian red frames, 1903 to 1905. GWR Churchwood green, 1905 to 1912. GWR unlined green, 1912 to 1923. GWR lined green, 1923 to 1931. And 2 preservation era variants of 3717 City of Truro. I recall seeing 3711 City of Birmingham depicted in ROD khaki as part of a model train pack, specifically the World War I ambulance train from Barkman Branch Line. As for the BR livery, I'm guessing this was added as a reference to the time when City of Truro actually wore BR black, albeit on only one side. If my research is correct, the repaint was done as an April Fool's joke in 1985, before the engine was sent in for restoration ahead of taking part in the GWR 150 celebrations. No, not that GWR 150, you plum. The City class is built on SimNation's Locomotion 2.0 scripting. Incidentally, I was told on good authority that the first CW locomotive to use said scripting was the London and South Western Railway N15 class, released in February 2023. The City's features are consistent with all other engines that use 2.0. Said features include, but are not limited to, a custom auto fireman, which is toggled with Control R, 3D number plates and nameplates, which I always like to see. Take notes, Armstrong Powerhouse. 3D firebox and coal. Performance Mode Pro, which is toggled with Shift P and takes away shadows and point lights to improve performance for lower end computers. Fluctuating water level depending on the route gradient. A realistic, fully functional cab. Customizable headlamp arrangements, which are toggled with Control 1 through to Control 4. Fire intensity synchronized with the exhaust beat, as opposed to the sugar beat, silver beat, or in Tony Basil's case, street beat. And animated valve gear inside the frames, although it's very hard to see. Thinking back to the fluctuating water level, that's something you can't miss if you're driving on a route like the Somerset and Dorset Railway, where the gradient changes quite frequently. Unlike the locomotives on the Snowdon Mountain Railway, and other mountain railways for that matter, conventional steamers like the City class don't have their boiler set at an angle. If they did, then the water inside the boiler would be kept level when the engine's on an incline. Thinking back to the brakes for a moment, why did the Great Western Railway's engines have 25 inches of mercury when all the other companies' engines only had 21 inches of mercury? There are no scenarios included with the GWR City class add-on itself, but 3 scenarios for this engine are available as part of the Great Western Levels 1902 route by Golden Age Developments. As for the City's quick-drive consists, their requirements are primarily from Matrix trains, and those ones are available from either CW's website or Steam, but there's also one pack from Armstrong Powerhouse and another from Precision Locomotive Developments. Links to all the relevant coaches are in a text file included with the download. For anyone who would prefer to run in simple mode, you have the option to do just that on the City class, and the other CW engines with Locomotion 2.0 for that matter. Simple mode is toggled with Control A and removes the reverser lock and steam chest simulation. As someone who's very familiar with CW locomotives, and has been for at least 5 years at this point, I usually drive in advanced mode and didn't find the City class particularly hard to drive. But one thing that still throws me off a little bit is the steam chest simulation. I also found that 3710 City of Bath struggled to get up to a decent speed on the 1 in 50 climb out of her namesake city. The good thing is that she didn't lose too much boiler pressure, and still made it to the summit of the climb at Combe Down Tunnel without stalling. I noticed that a lubricator has been modelled on the City's footplate, but it's only cosmetic in-game. Based on my experience with the New Zealand Railways JA Class 482, which does have a functioning, albeit annoying, lubricator, it's a relief to not have to deal with this sort of thing on the GWR City and other CW locomotives. Come to think of it, I wish the JA, and the KB Class 484 for that matter, had a simple mode too. Out of curiosity, I set up a test run with 3717 City of Truro to see if the engine can actually reach 102.3 miles per hour in game, with the testing ground being the Gretna Green to Ruthwell section of Western Lines of Scotland. Why I decided to run this engine with Network Southeast coaches and a huge American diesel in tow is anyone's guess. In any case, I managed to get City of Truro up to 77.4 miles per hour, with that speed being reached 0.4 miles east of Cummertrees. It's worth mentioning that the ideal fire mass for this locomotive is around 57% on the F4 heads-up display, or between 1,200 and 1,210 pounds if you're using the F5 HUD. I've found that, when the engine is cruising along at low speed, you can be a bit more relaxed with how often you put coal on the fire. But when the engine's working hard, as she was on this test run to Ruthwell, that kind of situation calls for more frequent firing, a bit like what the North Western Railway No. 6's firemen had to do when they were racing a helicopter. And there you have it, a showcase of the Great Western Railway City Class 440. While this is not my favourite Great Western engine by any means, I can't deny that this is still a well-made piece of DLC, as is always the case from Caledonia Works. It's good to see City of Truro and his classmates brought up to modern standards in TS, but going forward, I'm not sure how often I'll use the City class given the sheer size of my DLC collection. Even so, I can still recommend this locomotive to TS Classic players who like the Great Western Railway.